The scarlet sunset cast long shadows across the desolate landscape of Ashara, a once thriving desert planet, now ravaged by war. Princess Silvari Valixia stood atop the ancient watchtower, her iridescent skin shimmering as she surveyed the battlefield through narrowed eyes. The wind whipped her silver-blue hair around her angular face, accentuating the determination in her expression. Years of conflict had hardened her heart against the invading humans, who had brought nothing but destruction to her world. "The scouts report the humans are preparing another assault," Commander Thaxus informed her, bowing slightly. "They've established a forward base in the Eastern Valley." Valixia's hand tightened around her ceremonial staff. "Then, we shall meet them with everything we have. I have sworn on the sacred waters that no human shall leave Ashara alive." Her voice carried the weight of thousands of her people lost to human warfare. Not after what they did to the northern provinces. Behind her imposing presence, a small figure peered out from the chamber entrance. Kira Valixia's 6-year-old daughter watched with curious eyes that hadn't yet learned to hate as her mother had. Her skin held the same pearlescent quality as her mother's, though softer in hue, and her large eyes reflected the twin moons beginning to rise. "Return to your chambers, Kira," Valixia said, her tone softening momentarily. "This is no place for a child. But Mother Elder Elra says all conflict can be resolved through understanding," the child replied, her voice carrying the innocence that war had not yet stolen. Valixia knelt before her daughter, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Elder Elra never watched his family die at the hands of humans. Sometimes understanding is impossible when dealing with monsters." She kissed Kira's forehead. "Now, go with Malus. I will return when the battle is won." As Kira reluctantly departed with her caretaker, Valixia turned back to her commander. "Prepare the shadow squadrons. We attack at midnight." Thousands of miles across the barren plains in the human encampment, nestled among jagged rock formations. Combat medic Jasper Hayes finished packing his field kit. His dark hair was cropped military short, and 3 days of stubble shadowed his jaw. Despite the weariness etched into the lines around his eyes, there was a gentle determination in his movements as he organized medical supplies. "You know the orders, Hayes," Captain Mercer declared, entering the medical tent. "We're hitting the Vuln Valley tonight. Full tactical sweep, no survivors." Jasper looked up, his brow furrowing. "Captain, with all due respect, the Geneva Conventions still apply to interplanetary conflict. Non-combatants." "These aren't humans, Hayes," Mercer cut him off. "High Command has classified all Silvari as hostile combatants. Their entire civilization is militarized." He tossed a tactical map onto the table. "Besides, this is payback for what they did to the Columbia colony." "I signed up to save lives, sir," Jasper replied, his voice steady but resolute. "Not to participate in genocide." Mercer's expression hardened. "Your job is to keep our soldiers alive, not theirs. Be ready at 2200 hours." He turned and exited the tent, leaving Jasper alone with his troubled thoughts. Nearby, a young technician named Ellis approached Jasper with a concerned expression. "I overheard. You're not wrong, but you know what happens to dissenters." Jasper nodded grimly. "I've patched up too many bodies to think this war is anything but manufactured. There's something else going on here." He continued packing medical supplies, including extra trauma kits. "Did you manage to decrypt those transmissions?" Ellis glanced around nervously before handing Jasper a small data chip. "It's fragmentary, but there are communications between someone high up in command and Blackwood Industries. Something about resource extraction patents." He lowered his voice. "This war might be about something beneath Ashara's surface." Jasper pocketed the chip. "Keep this between us. I need more evidence before we can do anything." He checked his watch. "Better get ready. Whatever happens tonight, people will need medical attention." As darkness fell across the desert planet, both forces prepared for the coming battle. The night air grew cold, and stars emerged like distant beacons in the vast emptiness above. The Vuln Valley, A winding ravine carved by ancient rivers, long since dried up, became the stage for the night's conflict. Human dropships descended silently, their stealth systems masking their approach, as soldiers deployed into strategic positions. Among them, Jasper moved with his medical unit, his mind racing with conflict between duty and conscience. Simultaneously, Sylvari shadow squadrons materialized from the darkness, their natural ability to blend with shadows giving them a momentary advantage. Princess Valixia led from the front, her royal armor gleaming faintly in the moonlight, as she directed her forces with practiced precision. Neither side anticipated the ferocity of the ensuing clash. The valley erupted in weapons fire, illuminating the night in staccato flashes. Energy weapons from the Sylvari met human ballistic technology in a deadly exchange that echoed through the canyon walls. In the command center overlooking the valley, Valixia received reports of the battle's progress while coordinating reinforcements. A young messenger rushed in breathless. "Your Highness, human forces have breached the eastern perimeter. They're approaching the civilian evacuation zone." Valixia's expression darkened. "Redirect the 3rd Battalion to intercept. We cannot allow." A tremendous explosion cut off her words as the command center shook violently. The ceiling cracked, support beams crashing down amidst clouds of dust and debris. When the rumbling subsided, Valixia pushed herself up from the floor, ears ringing. "Report!" she shouted, helping injured staff to their feet. "Direct hit from human artillery," someone answered through the haze. "Multiple casualties." A cold realization struck Valixia as she surveyed the damaged room. "Where is Kira?" She turned to Malus, who lay injured near the collapsed doorway. "Where is my daughter?" She was just here." The caretaker coughed, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. When the explosion hit, panic seized Valixia's heart as she frantically searched the rubble, calling for her daughter. She ordered soldiers to assist in the search, but as minutes passed with no sign of Kira, dread pooled in her stomach. The lower level collapsed entirely, a scout reported. "There's a breach in the western wall. She could have been thrown clear, or—" Valixia refused to consider the alternative. "Find her!" she commanded, her voice breaking. "Mobilize every available unit not engaged in battle." On the battlefield below, Jasper worked feverishly to treat wounded soldiers. The night had become a hellscape of screams and chaos, testing every ounce of his medical training. As he finished stabilizing a soldier with a chest wound, the radio crackled with a retreat order. "All units fall back. Orbital bombardment authorized in 15 minutes. Repeat, orbital bombardment of Voln Valley authorized. All personnel evacuate immediately." Jasper's blood ran cold. Orbital bombardment would devastate the entire valley, regardless of who remained. He helped load his patient onto an evacuation transport before moving to the next wounded soldier. As he worked his way through the battlefield, a faint sound caught his attention, different from the moans of the wounded or the distant explosions. He paused, listening intently, then followed the sound to a collapsed structure at the edge of the valley. There, barely visible amid twisted metal and stone, was a small hand reaching upward. Without hesitation, Jasper began clearing debris, calling for assistance. But the evacuation was already in full swing. No one heard, or no one cared to delay their departure. Working alone, he finally uncovered a child, not human, but Sylvari, her pearlescent skin dulled by dust and blood, her small body trapped beneath a fallen beam. Kira looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes, recognizing his human features with terror. "It's okay," Jasper said softly, switching to the rudimentary Sylvari he had learned during his deployment. "I'm a doctor. I'm going to help you." The girl trembled as he examined her injuries. A broken leg, possible internal bleeding, but nothing immediately life-threatening if treated quickly. The countdown to bombardment, however, left little time for careful extraction. A crackling announcement reminded all forces that only 10 minutes remained before the strike. Jasper made his decision in an instant. He administered pain medication, carefully freed the child from the debris, and secured her broken leg with an improvised splint. "I'm going to carry you somewhere safe," he explained, gathering her in his arms. "What's your name?" "Kira," she whispered, her voice weak from pain and fear. "I'm Jasper. Hold on to me, Kira." As Jasper carried the Silveri child away from the battlefield, he knew he was violating direct orders. The evacuation transports would be departing without him, and the coming bombardment would leave the valley a scorched wasteland. His only option was to find shelter in the labyrinthine cave systems that honeycombed the region. The retreat order had thrown the human forces into disarray, with soldiers rushing to evacuation points, while continuing to exchange fire with Silvari forces. Jasper used the chaos as cover, slipping away from the main conflict zone, with Kira clutched protectively against his chest. "Hayes, where the hell are you going?" a voice called out. It was Ellis waving frantically from a departing transport. "There's a child, I have to get her to safety," Jasper shouted back. Ellis's eyes widened when he saw the silvery child. "That's not a child, that's the enemy. Leave it and get on board." "I can't do that," Jasper replied, already turning away. "Tell them I didn't make it." Despite Ellis's continued calls, Jasper disappeared into the darkness, racing against time to reach the distant cave entrance he had noted during earlier reconnaissance. Behind him, the human transports lifted off, leaving trails of exhaust in the night sky. Kira whimpered softly in his arms, her small body trembling with each jolting step. "It hurts," she murmured in her native tongue. "I know," Jasper responded, his breathing labored from exertion. "Just a little further." They reached the cave entrance with only minutes to spare. Jasper carried her deep into the winding passages, putting as much solid rock between them and the coming firestorm as possible. When the bombardment began, the ground shook violently, dust and small rocks raining from the ceiling as distant explosions rocked the valley. Kira cried out in terror, clinging to Jasper, despite him being a human, the enemy she had been taught to fear. He held her close, shielding her with his body until the tremors subsided. When relative quiet returned, Jasper activated a portable light and set up a small medical area. He treated Kira's injuries properly, cleaning wounds, setting her broken leg with a proper splint, and administering antibiotics from his medical kit. "Your leg will heal," he assured her. "But we need to find your people." Kira studied him with cautious curiosity. "Why did you help me? Mother says all humans want to kill us." The question caught Jasper off guard with its innocent directness. "Not all humans want war," he answered carefully. "I'm a doctor. I help people who are hurt no matter who they are. Even enemies." "Especially enemies," Jasper replied. "That's how we stop being enemies." As night gave way to dawn, the reality of their situation became clear. The valley above had been transformed into a blackened wasteland. Communications were down, and both Jasper and Kira were now stranded in hostile territory. Jasper as a human deserter in Silvari lands, and Kira separated from her people during active conflict. What Jasper didn't realize was that the child he had saved was not just any Silvari, but Princess Valixia's daughter, and that her disappearance had ignited a fury that would spread across the planet. In the aftermath of the battle, Princess Valixia stood amidst the smoldering ruins of the command center, her face a mask of cold rage and grief. Reports confirmed what she already knew. In her heart, her daughter was missing, presumably taken by retreating human forces. "Sweep every inch of territory," she commanded, her voice deadly calm. "Capture any human found alive. I want my daughter returned, and I want the one who took her brought to me." Commander Thaxus approached cautiously. "Your Highness, the orbital strike has made tracking difficult. The ground is altered." "Then, we use the old ways," Valixia replied, removing a pendant from around her neck, a crystalline device that pulsed with bioluminescent light. "Kira's life signature is encoded in the royal bloodline tracker. It will find her if she still lives." The pendant glowed softly as she held it before her, its light shifting subtly toward the western canyons. Prepare my personal squadron, Velixia ordered, and alert all outposts to be vigilant for a human traveling with a child. Deep within the cave system, Jasper faced the daunting challenge of survival. His medical kit, while comprehensive for emergency treatment, contained limited supplies for extended care. The caves themselves were an unknown territory, ancient formations that predated even silvery settlement of Ashara. After ensuring Kira was stable, Jasper ventured deeper into the caves, discovering unexpected resources. Underground springs provided fresh water, and luminescent fungi growing along the walls offered dim illumination. More surprisingly, he found remnants of previous habitation artifacts and symbols etched into stone that suggested the caves had once sheltered refugees from some forgotten conflict. People lived here before, he explained to Kira when he returned with water. Maybe they were hiding from war too. Kira examined the water container with interest. The elders speak of the deep places where the first ones dwelled. Is this such a place? Maybe, Jasper replied, helping her drink. Who were the first ones? Those who came before the Sylvari, Kira explained with childlike simplicity. They left when the stars changed. As days passed, an unexpected bond formed between the human doctor and the Sylvari princess. Kira's natural resilience aided her recovery, while Jasper's medical knowledge ensured proper healing. He fashioned a crutch from cave materials to help her move independently, and she taught him more complex expressions in her language. Their routine developed around Jasper's explorations of the cave system, searching for both resources and a safe route to Sylvari territory. During one such expedition, he discovered something unexpected, a chamber with wall carvings depicting extraction operations and what appeared to be molecular structures. Jasper studied the ancient imagery with growing realization. These weren't religious symbols or historical records. They were scientific notations, showing a material being harvested from deep beneath Ashara's surface. The molecular structure depicted was oddly familiar. Quantum, stabilized neocarbon, he whispered, recognition dawning. It was a theoretical substance that Blackwood Industries had been pursuing for years, a material that could revolutionize faster-than-light travel if it could be synthesized in sufficient quantities. The pieces began to fit together. The encrypted communications, the aggressive mining operations disguised as military installations, the manufactured conflict to clear indigenous populations. It wasn't about territory or ideology. It was about what lay beneath Ashara's surface. Jasper's discovery was interrupted by a distant sound, echoing through the cave system, the methodical movement of a search party. They had been found. He rushed back to Kira, finding her attempting to stand using her crutch. "Someone's coming," he whispered urgently. "We need to move deeper into the caves." "Is it my mother?" Kira asked hopefully. "I don't know," Jasper admitted. "But we can't take chances." He gathered their meager supplies and helped Kira into a small, concealed passage he had discovered during his explorations. As they moved deeper into the cave network, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter, then faded entirely. Their new location was a vast underground chamber where crystal formations refracted what little light Jasper's portable lamp provided, creating an ethereal environment of dancing shadows and colored illumination. Here, the carvings were more elaborate, depicting what appeared to be an ancient civilization's fall, and the reason for their departure from Ashara. The poison from the deep. Kira translated, pointing to symbols that represented sickness and death following extraction activities. The first ones took too much, and the planet made them pay. Jasper's heart sank as he recognized the implications. The neocarbon deposits existed in balance with other planetary systems. Large-scale extraction would destabilize that balance, potentially rendering Ashara uninhabitable, exactly as had happened to the first ones. This war isn't about humans versus Sylvari, he realized aloud. It's about prophets versus people, and both our species are being sacrificed. Above ground, Princess Velixia's search had expanded across the Western territories. The bloodline tracker had led her to the bombarded valley, where she stood amidst blackened earth, her face grim, as she surveyed the devastation wrought by human weapons. "The signal leads beneath," she informed her squadron, pointing to a cave entrance partially collapsed by the orbital strike. "Proceed with caution. If my daughter is harmed, no mercy will be shown." As they ventured into the labyrinthine passages, Velixia noticed ancient carvings, illuminated by their light sources. Unlike Jasper, she recognized them immediately sacred historical records, preserved in the royal archives, depicting the cautionary tale of the first one's hubris. "These are the forbidden chambers," she whispered, a new concern evident in her voice. "The toxic depths, where the balance was broken." "Your Highness," one of her scouts called out, examining the ground. "Human footprints and smaller ones beside them a child's." Velixia's determination hardened. "They came this way. Continue tracking." Meanwhile, in the crystal chamber, Jasper was making a difficult decision. The data chip Ellis had given him contained more than fragmentary communications. It held deployment schedules, extraction site coordinates, and most importantly, the orbital command codes that could be used to send messages directly to the unified galactic network, bypassing Blackwood Industries' information blockade. "We need to get this information out," he told Kira, who watched him curiously, as he attempted to boost his communicator's signal, using crystal formations as natural amplifiers. "If both humans and Sylvari learn they're being manipulated, maybe we can stop this war." "Will that help Mother find me?" Kira asked, her primary concern still the reunion with her parent. Jasper smiled gently. "That's the first thing we'll make sure happens." His work was interrupted by a faint glow emanating from a pendant. Kira wore a simple crystal, similar to the one Velixia carried. It pulsed with increasing frequency, responding to something nearby. "It's singing," Kira said, touching the pendant with wonder. "It only does that when—" Her explanation was cut short by the sudden appearance of armed Sylvari warriors at the chamber entrance, weapons trained on Jasper. Behind them stepped Princess Velixia, her regal presence filling the space, despite her battle-worn appearance. Mother Kira cried out in joy, attempting to stand. Velixia rushed forward, gathering her daughter into a fierce embrace. For a moment, nothing else mattered. Not the war, not the human, not the ancient chamber surrounding them. When she finally looked up, her eyes locked with Jasper's cold hatred, replacing her momentary relief. "Restrain the human," she ordered, rising to her full height. "He will answer for his crimes." "No, Mother," Kira protested, as warriors moved to seize Jasper. "He saved me. When the building fell, he carried me away before the sky weapons came. He fixed my leg and found us water and kept me safe." Velixia hesitated, studying Jasper with suspicious scrutiny. "Why would a human soldier save a Sylvari child? What advantage did you seek?" "None," Jasper replied simply. "I'm a doctor. I couldn't leave her to die." "He helps everyone who is hurt," Kira added earnestly. "Even enemies. That's how we stop being enemies." Velixia recognized her own daughter's voice, reciting the human's words, and her expression flickered with uncertainty. "You will come with us," she finally declared. "Your fate will be decided after we return to our territory." "Wait," Jasper said urgently. "Before you take me, there's something you need to know about the real reason for this war." He explained his discovery about Blackwood Industries, the neocarbon deposits, the manufactured conflict designed to clear both humans and Sylvari from resource-rich territories. He showed her the data chip, the ancient warnings carved by the first ones, and his attempts to alert both sides to the manipulation. Velixia listened in silence, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she turned to her commanders. "Verify his claims. Examine the carvings and compare them to our archives." Hours passed in tense waiting. Jasper was kept under guard, while Sylvari experts studied both the ancient records and the data chip's contents. Kira remained by her mother's side, but frequently glanced toward Jasper with worried eyes. Finally, a senior advisor approached Velixia, bowing deeply. "The human speaks truth, Your Highness. The carvings match our most sacred warnings about the deep extraction. The data reveals human leadership conspiring with this Blackwood Industries to exploit the forbidden resources. Valixia's face darkened with fury, not at Jasper, but at the revelation of a greater betrayal. She approached him slowly, studying him with new consideration. "It seems we have been pawns in someone else's game, Dr. Hayes," she said, using his proper title for the first time. "Both our peoples manipulated into destroying each other for corporate greed." "There's still time to stop it," Jasper replied. "But we need to get this information to both sides. The orbital command codes on this chip could bypass Blackwood's communication blocks." A dangerous smile curved Valixia's lips. "I have something better than codes. I have a ship." The Sylvari princess revealed her contingency plan, a royal vessel hidden in the canyons designed for emergency evacuation. With its stealth capabilities and royal override protocols, it could approach the orbital communication hub undetected. "But this is a suicide mission," Jasper pointed out. "Blackwood controls that station, even with stealth technology once you're aboard." "Not I," Valixia interrupted. You know human systems and protocols. I know combat. Together we might succeed, where either would fail alone." Their gazes held for a long moment, former enemies contemplating an alliance neither had imagined possible days earlier. "What about Kira?" Jasper asked. "She will remain with our people, protected in the ancient sanctuary." "Valixia," replied, her voice softening slightly. "You saved my daughter human. Now we must save both our peoples." As preparations were made, Kira approached Jasper, leaning on her crutch. She pressed something into his hand, her pendant glowing faintly. "So you and Mother can find your way back," she explained simply. The journey to the hidden ship was arduous, requiring traversal of treacherous terrain, still scarred by battle. Jasper and Valixia traveled with a small escort of elite Sylvari warriors, moving only at night to avoid detection by either human patrols or Blackwood surveillance drones. During these travels, an uneasy respect developed between the human doctor and the Sylvari princess. She observed his care for injured members of their party, regardless of species. He witnessed her leadership and dedication to her people's welfare. "You could have executed me immediately," Jasper noted during a brief rest. "Why didn't you—" Valixia's luminescent eyes studied him in the darkness. "Kira trusts you. She has unclouded judgment unmarred by years of war." After a pause, she added, "And you defied your own kind to save one of ours. That requires consideration." Their conversation was interrupted by the distant rumble of engines, a human patrol craft scanning the region. The group took cover in a rocky outcropping as the craft passed overhead, its searchlights cutting through the darkness. "They're expanding the search parameters," Jasper observed. "Blackwood must suspect something." "Then we accelerate our timeline," Valixia declared. "The ship is less than a day's journey from here." Dawn revealed the true extent of the devastation wrought upon Ashara. What had once been a harsh but vibrant desert ecosystem was now a blasted wasteland. Ancient rock formations lay, shattered oases were reduced to toxic sludge, and the remains of both human and Sylvari outposts dotted the landscape like warnings. "My ancestors tended these lands for 7 generations," Valixia said quietly as they crossed a once sacred valley. "We adapted to its harshness, learned to thrive in balance with its cycles. Now, look what remains." "Earth was like this once," Jasper replied. "Regions made uninhabitable by corporate greed disguised as progress. It took centuries to heal the damage." He paused, surveying the desolation. "Some places never recovered." Their shared recognition of the destruction created another bridge of understanding between them, the knowledge that beyond their differences, both species suffered from the same exploitation. By nightfall, they reached the hidden canyon where the royal vessel lay concealed beneath holographic projections designed to mimic natural rock formations. Upon Valixia's command, the projections dissolved, revealing a sleek craft of Sylvari design, organic curves, blended with advanced technology, in a way human engineering had never achieved. It was built to evacuate the royal family in case of catastrophic defeat, Valixia explained, as they boarded. I never imagined using it to infiltrate an enemy station. The ship's interior accommodated the peculiar biological needs of the Sylvari, while incorporating adaptations for potential non-Sylvari passengers, evidence of a time before hostilities, when diplomacy had been possible. As they prepared for launch, Jasper studied the orbital communication hub through the ship's advanced scanning systems. The massive station hung in geostationary orbit above Ashara, a nexus of control, where all information to and from the planet was filtered through Blackwood's security protocols. There's a maintenance access port on the station's underside, he noted, identifying a potential entry point. Security will be minimal there. It's designed for automated repair drones, not human personnel. Our ship can mimic those drones' transponder signals. Valixia confirmed, her fingers dancing across the ship's biometric controls. But once aboard, we'll have minutes at most before security protocols detect the anomaly. The plan they formulated was audacious in its simplicity. Dock undetected, reach the primary communication array, upload the unaltered data about Blackwood's operations to all connected networks simultaneously, then escape during the ensuing confusion. As the ship lifted off, rising through Ashara's atmosphere with barely a sound, Valixia turned to Jasper, with unexpected vulnerability in her expression. If we fail, my daughter becomes an orphan. Your actions saved her life once. I ask you now, if I fall and you survive, will you ensure she reaches safety? The request stunned Jasper with its implication of trust. I will, he promised. And if I fall, will you tell my people the truth about Blackwood, even if they refuse to listen? Valixia inclined her head in solemn agreement. So sworn. Their ascent into orbit revealed the full scope of military operations surrounding Ashara. Human battleships formed a blockade around the planet, while Sylvari defense platforms maintained a fragile perimeter around their remaining territories. Between them, Blackwood Industries, research vessels, extracted resources from sites deliberately located in contested zones, manufacturing conflicts whenever extraction operations might be discovered. The pattern is clear from orbit, Jasper observed bitterly. They've been playing us against each other while systematically mining the deposits. And each battle conveniently provides cover for more extraction. Valixia added, her voice tight with controlled rage. How many of my people died to conceal their greed? The royal vessel slipped through the complex network of satellites and sensor arrays, its advanced stealth systems, rendering it virtually invisible to conventional detection methods. As they approached the communication hub, tension mounted. This station was the linchpin of Blackwood's control, the means by which they monitored operations, directed military assets, and maintained their information blockade. Initiating docking sequence. Valixia announced, guiding the ship toward the maintenance port Jasper had identified. Transponder mimicry active. The ship attached to the station with a gentle shudder, magnetic clamps engaging to secure their position. Warning lights immediately flickered across the control panel. We've triggered a secondary authentication protocol. Valixia reported, fingers working rapidly to counter the security measure. They've upgraded since our last intelligence report. Jasper accessed the data chip, searching for any security codes that might bypass the authentication. Try access sequence Blackwood 9 Echo 7. He suggested, finding a maintenance override buried in the communications logs. The warning lights faded, replaced by a steady green indicator. They exchanged a brief look of relief before retrieving their equipment and preparing to board the station. The maintenance access tunnel was narrow and utilitarian, designed for drones rather than humanoid figures. They moved through in single file, Valixia leading with a Sylvari energy blade, drawn, Jasper following with the data package secured in a specialized transmission device. Life signs ahead. Valixia whispered, her species' natural sensitivity to bioelectrical fields, alerting her to nearby presence. 2 humans, likely maintenance workers. They retreated into a junction as 2 technicians passed, discussing shift rotations. Once clear, they continued toward the central hub, navigating through service passages to avoid detection. The communication array control room was their objective, a secure facility from which all planetary communications were monitored and regulated. According to the station schematics on the data chip, it would be heavily guarded, requiring both Velixia's combat skills and Jasper's knowledge of human security systems to breach. What they found instead was far worse. The control room entrance stood open, revealing not just communications equipment, but extensive monitoring systems, tracking extraction operations across the planet. Displayed prominently on the main screen was a countdown timer labeled Project Terminus, showing less than 24 hours remaining. "What is this?" Velixia questioned, studying the displays with growing alarm. Jasper accessed a nearby terminal, his medical clearance providing unexpected access to peripheral systems. What he discovered chilled him to the core. "It's an endgame protocol," he explained, horror evident in his voice. "Once they've extracted sufficient quantities of neocarbon, they're planning to trigger a cascade reaction in the planetary core, making it look like a natural disaster caused by the war. They would destroy an entire planet to hide their crimes." Velixia's voice trembled with disbelief. "And blame it on regrettable escalation of hostilities," Jasper confirmed, continuing to search through files. Blackwood would retain mining rights to whatever remains, with neither humans nor Sylvari left to contest their claim. Before they could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the station. A stern voice echoed through the communication system. "Security breach in Section 7. All personnel on alert. Intruder protocols engaged." "We've been discovered," Velixia stated, positioning herself defensively. "Then we move to contingency," Jasper replied quickly, connecting the transmission device to the main communication array. "I need 3 minutes to upload the data and override the blocks." "You'll have it," Velixia promised her blade, humming with energy as she stood guard at the entrance. Jasper worked frantically, bypassing security protocols and establishing direct connections to both human and Sylvari communication networks. The data package would expose everything: the manufactured conflict, the extraction operations, and now the planned destruction of Ashara itself. Security forces arrived faster than anticipated, converging on the control room from multiple directions. Velixia engaged them with lethal efficiency, her movements a blur of precision as she held them at bay. Despite her skill, however, they were vastly outnumbered. "Status," she called out, deflecting a barrage of energy bolts. 70% uploaded, Jasper reported, fingers flying across the interface. "Need more time." The situation deteriorated rapidly as more security forces joined the assault. Velixia sustained a grazing wound to her shoulder, but continued fighting, her determination unwavering. "Dr. Hayes," a new voice announced, cutting through the chaos. A tall figure entered the corridor, flanked by elite guards in Blackwood Industries uniforms. "And Princess Velixia. What an unexpected partnership." The man wore the insignia of an admiral, though his actual allegiance was clearly to corporate interests rather than military protocol. His silver hair and aristocratic features projected authority, but his eyes held the cold calculation of someone accustomed to viewing lives as expendable resources. "Admiral Vance," Jasper acknowledged, recognizing Blackwood's military liaison. "Or should I say Director Vance? Your true employer seems relevant at this point." Vance smiled thinly. "Titles are merely functional, Doctor. Rather like ethics in wartime." He gestured toward the transmission device. "I suggest you disconnect that immediately. Corporate secrets are protected by interstellar law." "Genocide is not protected by any law," Velixia countered, her blade still raised. "We know about Project Terminus." "An unfortunate necessity," Vance replied, with disturbing calm. "The neocarbon deposits on Ashara represent a quantum leap in propulsion technology. The stockholders deemed the indigenous complications acceptable losses." As they spoke, Jasper surreptitiously checked the upload progress: 90%. Just moments more. "You manufactured a war between our species," he accused, stalling for time. "Thousands dead, so Blackwood could improve its profit margins." "Millions dead," Vance corrected casually. And technically, we just exploited existing tensions. Your species have never trusted each other. We merely provided opportunities for that mistrust to express itself productively. Velixia's fury was palpable, her skin luminescence intensifying with emotion. You speak of genocide as productivity. Resource allocation, Vance countered. Ashara's value far exceeds its population's worth. The mathematics is quite straightforward. A discrete indicator on the terminal flashed green upload complete. The data was now transmitting to every connected network, bypassing all filters and security protocols. Mathematics isn't everything, Jasper replied, a grim satisfaction in his voice. Sometimes it's about justice. Vance's expression shifted as alerts began sounding across the station's communication systems. "What have you done?" he demanded, composure cracking. "Told the truth," Jasper answered simply. "To everyone, everywhere simultaneously." Chaos erupted as Vance ordered his security forces to terminate the transmission, but it was already too late. Throughout the station, personnel were receiving the unfiltered data, witnessing evidence of their unwitting complicity in corporate atrocity. In the confusion, Velixia seized the opportunity to disable several guards, while Jasper retrieved the transmission device, securing the evidence. They fought their way back toward the maintenance access, pursued by those still loyal to Vance or too invested in Blackwood's operations to accept the truth. "The ship is our only way out," Velixia reminded, as they ran through service corridors exchanging fire with pursuers. "They'll have it surrounded," Jasper replied, pausing at a junction to treat a wound Velixia had sustained during their escape. "Then, we need a diversion," she concluded, reaching a decision. "The station's environmental controls, if we trigger an emergency protocol, it would draw security away from the docking ports." It was a desperate plan, but their options were limited. They diverted to an environmental control substation, where Jasper used his medical authorization to access emergency systems. "A controlled atmospheric irregularity in the administrative section," he suggested. "Nothing dangerous, but enough to trigger evacuation protocols." Velixia nodded approval, covering their position as he implemented the diversion. Within minutes, alarms blared, announcing an atmospheric containment issue in the station's opposite wing. "Now we move," she commanded, leading their retreat toward the docking port. Their diversion worked better than anticipated. The maintenance access corridor was clear of guards, all security personnel having been diverted to either the environmental emergency or the communication breach. They reached the royal vessel without further confrontation, quickly initiating launch procedures. As the ship disengaged from the station, however, weapon systems across the platform activated, targeting their vessel. "Defensive shields at maximum," Velixia announced, piloting evasively as energy blasts streaked past them. "We can't withstand sustained fire from a military installation." Jasper monitored the communication channels, a smile slowly forming on his face. "We might not have to," he noted, turning the volume up so Velixia could hear. Throughout both human and Sylvari command frequencies, the same message repeated: immediate ceasefire, ordered pending investigation of Blackwood Industries' operations on Ashara. Their transmission had reached its intended recipients. "Look," Jasper pointed to the scanner display, where human and Sylvari vessels were breaking formation weapons systems, powering down as the truth spread through command structures. On a secondary channel, they heard Admiral Vance being relieved of command by his own officers, the evidence of his collusion with Blackwood, too overwhelming to ignore. The station's weapons fell silent as control shifted to officers, unwilling to fire on those who had exposed the truth. As they descended back toward Ashara, a unified communication reached them from both human and Sylvari leadership, an invitation to participate in emergency peace talks and coordination of efforts to neutralize Project Terminus before it could activate. The ship's cabin fell silent as the reality of their success settled upon them. After years of bitter conflict, the prospect of peace seemed almost unreal. "It will not be easy," Velixia finally observed, her tone measured. "Generations of hatred cannot be undone in a day." "No," Jasper agreed. But it's a beginning, and we have a common enemy now: corporate greed rather than each other. Valixia's gaze met his, a fragile hope visible beneath her warrior's exterior. My daughter was right to trust you, Jasper Hayes. Perhaps there is wisdom in her simple belief that helping even enemies can end enmity. Their return to Ashara was marked by the strange sight of human and Sylvari forces working cooperatively to secure Blackwood facilities and prevent the activation of Project Terminus. Technical experts from both species collaborated to safely deactivate the drilling equipment that had been modified to trigger planetary destabilization. The ancient sanctuary where Kira awaited their return became the unexpected venue for initial peace discussions. Human officers and Sylvari leaders gathered in chambers that had once sheltered the first ones, surrounded by warnings about the very catastrophe they had narrowly avoided. Kira's joy at reuniting with both her mother and Jasper symbolized the tentative hope for a new relationship between their species. Her innocent perspective, seeing individuals rather than enemies, became a powerful reminder of what had been lost to manufactured hatred. In the weeks that followed, the truth about Blackwood Industries spread across the galactic community. Corporate assets were frozen, executives arrested, and a comprehensive investigation launched into similar operations on other contested worlds. Admiral Vance and his closest collaborators faced prosecution for crimes against sentient beings, their testimony revealing the extent of corporate infiltration into military command structures. Jasper declined offers to return to Earth as a decorated hero, choosing instead to remain on Ashara to establish a joint medical facility serving both humans and Sylvari. His experiences had transformed him from a reluctant combat medic to an active advocate for interspecies cooperation and corporate accountability. Valixia faced her own challenges navigating the complex politics of peace after having built her reputation on resistance. Many Sylvari viewed cooperation with humans with suspicion, requiring her to demonstrate that true strength lay in forging new alliances rather than continuing old conflicts. Together, often with Kira's innocent wisdom as their guide, they worked to heal the wounds of war, both physical and psychological. The joint medical facility became a model for other cooperative ventures, demonstrating that shared knowledge could benefit both species. 6 months after their dangerous mission to the communication hub, a formal peace ceremony was held in the valley that had once witnessed their fiercest battle. Where orbital strikes had scorched the Earth, new growth now emerged: hardy desert plants, reclaiming the blackened terrain. Princess Valixia stood before the assembled representatives of both species, her royal regalia modified to incorporate symbols of peace rather than war. Beside her stood Jasper, now officially recognized as an interspecies liaison and chief medical officer of the Joint Recovery Initiative. Between them stood Kira, her once broken leg, now fully healed, holding a seedling, ready for planting in the ceremonial garden. From the wisdom of a child came the truth that eluded our leaders. Valixia addressed the gathering, that helping even those we call enemies can transform them into allies. Jasper continued his voice, carrying across the valley, and that the real battle was never between our species, but against those who would sacrifice lives for profit. That battle continues on many worlds, but here on Ashara, we have chosen a different path. Kira stepped forward, planting the seedling in soil where blood from both species had once mingled. It was a hybrid species developed through collaborative research, able to thrive in Ashara's harsh environment, while helping to restore its damaged ecosystem. As water was ceremonially poured to nourish the seedling, Kira spoke the words that would become the foundation of the new Ashara Charter. We heal together what was broken apart. The gathering erupted in approval tensions that had once seemed insurmountable, now giving way to cautious optimism. Human and Sylvari children played together at the ceremony's edges, already forming friendships unburdened by the prejudices of their parents. Later, as twilight settled over the desert planet, Jasper and Valixia stood at the observation point overlooking the valley. The first stars were appearing in the darkening sky, no longer harbingers of orbital bombardment, but simply distant suns around which other worlds turned. "Do you think it will last?" Jasper asked quietly. "This peace we've built." Valixia considered the question with a thoughtfulness that had made her both a formidable opponent and now a valuable ally. "Peace is never finished," she replied. "Like the desert, it requires constant tending." She gestured toward the settlement below, where lights from human and Sylvari dwellings intermingled. "But we have something Blackwood never anticipated." "What's that?" "A shared future worth protecting," she answered. "And the knowledge that together we are stronger than we ever were as enemies." As if to emphasize her point, Kira called to them from below, eager to show them a new discovery, a chamber within the ancient sanctuary, where First Ones and early Sylvari appeared to have collaborated on art depicting a unified community. History, it seemed, was cyclical. What had once been possible was possible again, if people chose to make it so. The war that had been manufactured could be unmade through genuine connection and common purpose. Jasper Hayes, who had once been a reluctant combat medic following orders, and Princess Valixia, who had once vowed to exterminate humanity, walked together toward Kira's excited calls, symbols of a transformation that extended far beyond themselves, to the very foundation of interspecies relations. Above them, the twin moons of Ashara cast their light across a landscape being slowly reborn, not as separate territories claimed through conflict, but as a shared world being healed through cooperation. The scars of war remained visible, a reminder of what had nearly been lost, but alongside them grew the first tender shoots of something new and altogether more resilient. It had begun with a simple act of compassion, a human saving an alien child despite orders to the contrary. From that single choice had flowed consequences that altered the destiny of an entire world, proving that even in the darkest moments of conflict, the capacity for connection remained the strongest force in the universe.